Okay, so about 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure of reading Marco and the Galaxy Dragon, or as I like to call it, Studio Trigger presents Guardians of the Galaxy, because there's a lot of elements of this that are very Guardians of the Galaxy adjacent, and definitely some elements where I'm like, yeah, this feels like it's something straight out of Studio Trigger. So the first thing is just a lot of the character similarities. Marco and Star-Lord are both human beings that were kidnapped as children and taken into space and then were raised by their adoptive alien parent who they have a weird relationship with, because it's like, yeah, this is like my dad, but they're also not my dad, and they fight a lot with each other. It's like, I taught you everything you know, you owe me. It's like, yeah, but you're kind of an asshole and a piece of shit, but we're also really close. Who raised him to be this big, great thief, and they end up taking this important purple stone, and it's this MacGuffin that's wanted by this evil overlord who ends up turning to dust by the end, and is how they died, and is feared throughout the galaxy. And the evil overlord, I really need to get a haircut. This evil overlord's daughter is like, I actively hate you, and I actively want to betray you and kill you, and at some point I'll get around to that. And I'm honestly not sure if Hawk was supposed to be more Gamora, if she's supposed to be a bit more Nebula, or it's kind of this combination of the two of them. And then there's this very unga bunga person who is dumb as rocks, who's like, you evil overlord, like, you killed my family and I'm gonna get revenge on you. There's this little pet that will only say like the same word or phrase or sound, but everyone around them can interpret it to be whatever it is. They can understand them perfectly. And I mean, I think I basically hit them a lot of the characters. I don't know if Arco is supposed to be Rocket Raccoon. If so, I'm like, I can almost kind of see it, but I'm not exactly sure the similarities. But with everyone else, like, yeah, Gally is definitely Drax. Hawk was definitely Nebula and Gamora. Astaroth is Thanos. I'm just going to be calling him Thanos for the rest of this video. Marco is Star-Lord. I think Emergency Rations is Groot. There's a lot of fun similarities there, and I feel like some of the similarities to Studio Trigger, number one, the animations. And it's not just like, oh yeah, there's animations, it's similar to an animation company. Duh. The art style reminded me a lot of Panty and Stocking. It's definitely not as raunchy or vulgar, but it had that kind of similar look to it, and that was something I appreciated. It's also the energy. Just the energy in the voice acting, like how fast the pacing is, and just how fucking wacky it is. And to be fair, there's a lot of like goofy shit in Guardians of the Galaxy as well. I feel like the dark subject matter, you know, things like slavery, kidnapping, genocide, juxtaposed with all the goofy, wacky shit, is very Studio Trigger and very Guardians of the Galaxy. But just how much energy there is in the voice acting, I'm like, I feel like I'm listening to Little Witch Academia right now, or like I feel like I'm listening to like shit from Kill la Kill. This really is Studio Trigger presents Guardians of the Galaxy. And I don't feel like it's, I don't mean that in like a this is super derivative trash. I mean it in the best possible way. But alas, at the end of the day, it is not an anime, although it has animations. It is a visual novel, and I want to talk about some of the like presentation and gameplay elements of the VN. Number one, I really liked the OST. There were definitely points where I'm like, this is really catchy. I really like this. There was this one part where it's Gally and Hakwa are fighting each other. I think it's like the second time they meet after Gally was thrown into like a garbage chute. And I think Hakwa's taken the Lizard Stone from Marco, and then Marco shows up, takes the Lizard Stone while they're fighting, and it's like, cool, you guys do this, I'm gonna take my shit and leave. Hakwa's chasing her to get the Lizard Stone back, Gally is chasing Hakwa to kick her ass, and it's playing this vocal track that I don't remember if it's actually the opening to the game, but it has the feel like it's an anime opening, and it's like, which, if there's one trope I love, it's playing the opening during like a big scene. But because it's a VN and it's not an anime, or it's not an animated section either, it's not, I don't want to say, it's not like the scene is fully scored to the music, because it just keeps looping. And that's not an inherently bad thing, especially because I really like the track. But it was like, yeah, this if it was like a full anime, and I would totally watch an anime of Galaxy Dragon, I'm not even gonna lie, it could maybe work a little bit better. It's just kind of those moments of the medium slightly working against it, but the OST is a complete bop. I noticed, especially early on, there are a lot of CGs. Like, I feel like it was a couple hours or so before I actually noticed, oh, this isn't a CG anymore, this is actually a character sprite. I think the art is very pretty. I really liked the look of the sprites. I really liked a lot of the CGs. I could really appreciate, like, the production value of this. And, of course, the aforementioned animations. They're a lot of fun. Like, the models look very different in the animations, I assume, because, like, they're simpler looking, they're easier to animate. But the animations tend to have a lot of fun, a lot of energy, and I guess not technically the last one, because that'd be, like, the end credits, but the climax with the fight with Thanos is actually really, really pretty. It looked fantastic. And that's really all. Oh yeah, and again, like I was talking about, like, the voice acting and just how much energy and how infectious it is. Like, it's very Studio Trigger. Oh yeah, the design. I wanted specifically to talk about Dosgoro's design because I love it. Dosgoro is this bipedal alligator wearing a trench coat, a cowboy hat. He's blinged out with necklaces. He's got a ring on every finger and a fucking cigar at all times. And I looked at this dude and said, this is, unironically, this is probably one of my favorite designs of all time. I just love looking at this dude. And then his big ass fucking laugh. Like, I love Dosgoro, man. I also want to talk about the gameplay. And if you've read this VN, you're probably thinking, what fucking gameplay? There is a grand total of one choice in the entire game, and it's, should this scene take place at a beach or a bathhouse? Like, at the beach? From what I understand, it's the exact same scene. It's just a different locale, and that's the only choice. I think that's kind of funny. There are 2 mini-games, which are the entire rest of the gameplay. There's one with Marco and Gally, which is basically like the quick draw minigame that you'll find in some Kirby games. And another one also with Marco and Gally, like trying to get into Thanos' ship. And you're basically just playing Galaga. That's it. That's all the gameplay that there is. But I was like, let me just shout out the little bit there is. It's fun. It's charming. In terms of your story, so Marco was this, I think she was like 6 when she got kidnapped. She was this piano-playing prodigy. She got kidnapped by aliens. Her mother was seemingly killed. What you find out later is Thanos... Okay, so Aqua, when she was a kid, specifically listened to Marco's playing. So Thanos wanted to kidnap Marco to use her as essentially kind of like a plaything for Aqua, but Dosgoro ended up intercepting, got his hands on her, was like, I'm gonna make her into a great thief instead. So he turns her into a great thief who ends up taking the Lizard Stone, which is this purple MacGuffin that Thanos wants. If that doesn't sound familiar. And she goes to Earth to sell the Lizard Stone and also see if she can find her missing family. However, there's a wrinkle there. Her best friend in the world is Arco. Arco is a galaxy dragon, which means she is a dragon that is born from a black hole, which is really fucking cool. And as she's a black hole, she is always hungry and always trying to feed off things. So Arco, when she first met Marco, because they've been together for like a decade plus, or decade-ish, fed on Marco's memories of her mother and of her family, and also on Marco's mother's memories. So Marco's mother does not remember her. Marco does not remember her family. Dosgoro gives her a treasure map, which is a picture of Marco as a kid being held by this woman with like out the top half of her head. And it's like, yeah, like this is, I think there's something you'd be interested in. It's like, it's a great treasure for you. And she's like, I don't know what the fuck this is, but I'll go. So she knows like, this is my family, but I have no memory of this. I feel like it's not that I want to go and meet my mom and rekindle this lost relationship. I just kind of want to like check in on her, like see how she's doing. And I don't know, We'll kind of play it by ear and figure it out when I get there. Honestly, I just want to sell this fucking stone and get paid. So, while that's going on, let's see what's after that. Yeah, so after that, Thanos sends Hakwa and some of his droogs to go to Earth to find the Lizard Stone because they were trying to get it, and Marco specifically stole it from the droogs. Like, hey, go, you failed me once, don't fail me twice. Go do this shit. Also, Hakwa, you might learn to be a great evil overlord when you're down there, and blah, 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 blah. Gally also gets sent to... It's less that she got sent to Earth and more that she just kind of got pushed out of the spaceship. But she ends up making her way to Earth. We end up meeting the locals. So the town is... I think it was Goldcord was the name of the town. I need some water real quick. So the high school has been turned into a military academy where the kids are learning how to fight aliens. Because after what happened 10 years ago with all the violence and the kidnapping, there are some people who have just said, I don't really care anymore. I don't get invested. And if I don't get invested, I don't get hurt by anything. And other people have said, like, no, we are humanity. We have to be able to fight back. So Marco, Hakwa, and Gally end up becoming a trio. They end up going to the school to, fight aliens and protect the planet and all that shit. Thanos ends up coming down and is like, hey, kiddo, hey, Hakwa, if you give me the stone, I won't kill your friends and blow up their planet. She goes, well, shit. I want to kill my dad. He's like, I hate him. I think he's a piece of shit. I want to overthrow him, and I want to do it with my friends, but I don't want my friends to die, so I will do that. So she betrays them, gives them the Lizard Stone. Gally and Marco try to fight back. Gally just gets her ass kicked. Marco gets her arm ripped off. And it's this really violent scene. You don't see it, but you hear it. And he's like, yeah, this arm is evil. It is the arm of a thief. Do you know that stealing is evil? And you've stolen from me. Dad, you said you wouldn't kill her. Don't worry, I'm not gonna kill her. And rips her arm out of its socket. So, oh no, I skipped ahead. I definitely skipped ahead because I think I skipped the whole love arc. Yeah, hold up. Pin in what I was just talking about. So Marco ends up finding her mom, her two older sisters, who specifically remember her. They don't quite recognize, I don't think they quite recognized her immediately, but eventually they do. And they have this picture of their little sister in her nice little dress in the cafe by the piano, and they talk about how much they miss her. And we hope she's out there, we hope she's safe. So she meets her mom, her two older sisters, and her little brother, who she's like, I want to do something nice for him. So she buys a model kit so she can build the model kit and give it to her. I thought that was really cute. There's this alien parasite called the Love, which will go to planets and try to immerse itself into the planet, into its social climate. And members of the Love will be people that you only have good memories of and will fuck with your memories. So it's oh yeah, we've been together forever. You remember when we did this? Remember when we did this? I remember it's that episode of Rick and Morty with Mr. Poopy Butthole and how they kept having, it's hey, there's these parasite monsters that are in our memories that shouldn't be. That's basically what the Love is. And there's a point where Marco realizes that her mom is a love parasite and has to kill her and put her down, which is really sad and emotional. And then later it's, no, her mom is totally fine. That was just one that looked like her. Anyways, the shit with Thanos ripping off her arm. So Hakwa goes back into space. Gally is heartbroken because her friend is gone. She got her ass kicked and her other friend got her arm ripped off. So she essentially fucks off and retires. Marco is dying from blood loss. So they take her to the sexy psycho weapon mongering augmentation performing dentist, who's one of the best characters in the game here in the VN, who is doing this, like, surgery for Marco, and they use Arco's tooth, I think it was specifically the tooth, put it in Marco's arm to try and, like, have that work, and Marco ends up getting this dragon arm. But while that's going on, Arco goes into space to fight Thanos. Like, you were pissed off the Galaxy Dragon. She gets her ass beat and is nearly fucking killed. Marco, not exactly knowing what's going on with Arco, eventually ends up waking up. She is okay, goes to find Gally, chases her around the world. They end up having a quick draw minigame in France. They team back up, go into space, play Galaga, fight Thanos, beat Thanos. Thanos turns to dust. And as Arco is dying, she feeds on Marco's memories of her, essentially saying, you have now found your family, you have found your people. You're torn between your friendship with me and your kinship with them, and I think you should choose them. I told you when we first met, I would eat you when you were at your most delicious, and I'm picking now. I am going to feed on your memories of me, which will give me the sustenance I need to not die here, and will also let you be able to live your life. And it's another, like, as wacky as this game is, there are some really emotional moments, and this is one of them. And in the ending, Marco does not have those memories, but I think there's something she had. I don't remember if it was like a picture. She's like, I know the Galaxy Dragon is out there, and that's something I want to go find and see for myself. And it's like, I have this, I think it was something that's like, I know like, my memories of her are missing, but I still have these feelings. Like, I know this is someone important to me. I'm gonna go traverse the universe to find her. And so Aqua goes with her as, like, her new partner, as Arco is now just being a master thief as well. And that's how it ends. It's a very much like the adventure continues kind of thing. I don't know if there is a sequel. I don't know if there are any plans to make a sequel. If there is, I would read it. I don't know if it really needs one, but if there's an adaptation, I would watch it hands down. I just want to talk about some of the wacky fucking moments in this game. One of the recurring characters is the mayor of Goldcord, who's like 9 years old. It's the child mayor who's always obsessed with talking about her re-election efforts, and I think she's very funny. There's one of the first people Marco tries to sell the Lizard Stone to is this dude named Collection Joe, who's just this fucking mouse. And he's like, oh shit, that's the Lizard Stone and Thanos wants it? Nope, can't get that. And then he calls in his mech, which is like this fucking cat, and he gets in the cat and flies off. There's Tara's entire character, who is the head of the student council, who's basically a chuny boyo. She talks about, like, how important she is and how rich she is, and, like, yeah, she's not actually that rich. She's not actually that important. All of us on the student council, including her twin sister, we fucking hate her. And Tara ends up getting involved with this, like, galactic auction, who have these very, very strict guidelines and bylaws. Like, yeah, if you buy it, you buy it. You are not allowed to file a complaint. It doesn't matter if you got ripped off. Buyer beware. Fuck you. Also, did you not pay? We're just gonna kill you. And there's a point later where she's, like, tied to a cross and she's about to be brought on the gallows. She's like, save me. And everyone else is like, ah! Nah. We don't really want to. There's also this scene later with her twin sister where it's when they're fighting the love parasites, and they run into Raka, and they're like, okay, is this her? Is this a parasite? And then so she just busts out a chainsaw and starts killing these other love parasites, and the blood of them is green, so she's just sitting there with a chainsaw, smiling, like, covered in green blood. I think it was Marco, and I don't remember who she was with. It was either, like, Arco or Gally, and they're just freaking out seeing that image. What's the next thing? The next thing's the fucking whale. There's an animation where Marco and Arco go inside a fucking giant space whale, and they end up meeting a cancer cell whose like has issues with like his self-worth, and they end up befriending this cancer cell. And I think at the end you see he's like become a successful stand-up comedian. It's wild. One of my favorite wacky moments is Tara and the mayor go to the zoo. And in the zoo, they see unicorns. And Tara's like, holy shit, like there's unicorns. How the heck do we have this in the zoo? And the unicorns are all like Pokemon. So I'm just like, unicorn, corn, eat corn. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty funny. And then there's a phoenix overhead. You're like, what the fuck? How is there a phoenix here? And then the phoenix just yells, unicorn! Why is it yelling unicorn? And then there's this like giant ivy fucking plant that ends up eating it. Like there's like, you see the head and all these unicorns are walking by. I was like, it's about to fucking eat one. And then it does, and I started laughing really hard. And I'm like, why is the ivy not yelling unicorn? And then the ivy starts yelling unicorn as it's trying to eat it's a very funny scene to me. Anytime that fuck, I forgot her name for a second. Anytime that Marco is interacting with Dosagoro, she's like, all right, here's the lizard stone, go take it. And it's not the lizard stone, it actually is like a bento box that just has like a croquette in it. Those I thought were pretty fun. Just the dentist in general is a very wacky, insane shit. I really enjoyed the dentist. There's this scene where Ruri, who is this girl that works like part-time at a soba restaurant, who's like one of Marco's first friends on Earth, where she and Arco end up going to this planet of like miso soup ingredients and just start slaughtering everything to make miso soup. And then the Galactic Patrol shows up for all the murder they just committed. There's this one line that stuck out to me for how funny it was. So Marco and Gally are about to go into space to fight Thanos, and I don't remember what his name was. It was like Hara, I think is the name of Marco's scooter, who in one animation ends up coming to life, but coming to life took up all of his his batteries, so he just can't fucking work anymore. But they're going to space, and as they're flying into space, Gally's just like, hey, I don't mean to brag or anything, but I get seasick pretty easily. And it just made me laugh really hard. When they're fighting the love, there's a few times where Gally's like, okay, these are a problem. I'm never gonna be tricked again. Right person? And it's like an obvious parasite, which Hakwa and Marco just immediately kill. And I specifically remember it just having in brackets like a stage direction gratuitous headshots. Oh, that's right. I was like, what the fuck does that say? Because, you know, I can never read my handwriting. There is this one animation, I think it's like number 4 or so, where it's this like beat 'em up game where it's Arco just going across the screen and beating up some of Thanos' minions. And at one point, it's like level 2. She just goes, grabs the minion's health bar, snaps it over her leg, and keeps doing that. And that cracked me up. So, yeah, that was Marco and the Galaxy Dragon. I don't think I said full spoilers. My bad. I'll make sure to put that in the description. It's very short. It was like 7 hours or so to read. I had it on auto advance. And again, the pace of it is very quick. Clearly, I liked it. I had a good time. There's so much energy to it. There's so much goofy, wacky shit. If you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, it'll feel very familiar. I feel like if you're familiar with Studio Trigger, you're also going to be reminded of that. And as someone who likes both of those, I had a fantastic time reading this.